Al, I wanted to ask you this question because before we have guests on the show, I like to do my due diligence and do very thorough research, which means I go to Wikipedia. Okay.
Right.
So, but I was just kind of going through your career, and there's something that stuck out at me because I didn't know that this storyline, this is how it actually began. And I always loved when you did the shit with Head. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So I wanted to read this because I think you'll like this, DI. It says, Sarvin found success back in ECW, billed once again as Al Snow. Sarvin developed a new character gimmick after reading about abnormal psychology and finding a mannequin head on the street near the ECW arena during Mummers Day Parade. What is that?
It wasn't on the street. I found it at the old Alhambra Arena on the other side of the building. They used to build the parade floats for the Mummers Day Parade. It's something that they do in Philadelphia, and I found a styrofoam head back there. That same night, I'd worked with Sasuke, great Sasuke,
right?
And I'd read a book about abnormal psychology, and there was a woman. It was a case study about a woman who had paranoid schizophrenia, and she had what they call transference disorder, where she transferred the sickness on the inanimate objects that she was hearing the voices from, meaning like that lamp was crazy. She wasn't. And
right.
So I thought, I'm going to start carrying this styrofoam head around and I'm going to treat it like it's talking to me and like it's insane and I'm not. So,
right. Okay.
I'll say that's more character development than we see on like a typical character on like TV these days, right?
Let me finish reading this because this gets better. Disco. So it says, So it says he got the idea to portray an individual with a schizophrenic disorder using the head as a prop for projection. In this role, Sarvin received a lot of fan and management support for his Job Squad storyline, which promoted him as being driven insane by years as a jobber for the WWF. Okay, that's okay. Then it says in the storyline, Snow, upset at his lot in life, asked Cactus Jack what he had to do to get anywhere in wrestling. Jack said Snow that to become famous, he had to get a little head, okay? Meaning he had to be willing to sleep with, have sex with the booker. Snow, however, took this literally, and thus he started coming to the ring with a mannequin head with the words "help me" written backwards on its forehead, an action Snow himself began to do. I mean, this is just brilliant shit. Then it says, Then it says, whom he talked to as if it were a real person, which prompted ECW crowds to we want head, okay? Right. And intentional double entendre. This is one that I used to love, and I forgot about this till I was reading this, Al. It says ECW promoters handed out styrofoam mannequin heads at wrestling shows, and audience members started waving them and shouting, head, head, head.
Oh, yeah.
In time. Breathed by the Prodigy, which was a great fucking song. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, it was awesome. Yeah, right. It fit perfectly together.
And the entire audience would throw their heads into the ring. Bro, that whole thing was brilliant.
Yeah, but the when I went to WWE, I did the what does everybody want? What does everybody need? What does everybody love? And all the audience, and even still to this day, everybody thinks I'm talking about oral sex, but I was cutting my own angle because if you pay attention, every time I do it, I get angrier as I say it. It's because I was getting jealous of the head. So I was hoping to turn heel and shoot an entire angle where I would wrestle the head, just like I would somebody else. We'd split up like all tag team partners. All tag team partners get jealous of each other.
Right.
Shawn kicked Marty through the barbershop window, and I was going to turn heel on the head, and I was going to have an whole angle with the head because after all those years of wanting success and wanting to be famous and wanting to be loved, what did everybody still want? They didn't want me. They wanted the head. What did everybody still need? They didn't need me. They needed the head. And what did everybody love? They didn't love me. They loved the head. So at some point I'd get jealous and turn on it. So
let me give you how a story grew out of this. So because Al was doing the head, okay, and I see it on the ECW stuff. So we're in Tucson, Arizona, and Tucson's got a nice little college town you can walk around in, like a lot of cool stuff and everything. And there was a store, and in the store there was a plastic goose Okay, this big giant plastic goose. And I said, okay. And I said, you know what? I go, I'm gonna do this, get this like Al does has the head thing. I go, I'm gonna get a visual aid. I'm gonna bring this on the show and start calling it the disco duck, even though it was a goose, right? So I had for a while on TV, I had the plastic the disco duck, even though it was a goose. And the funny thing, like, you had a very like good, well-defined backstory. Like, what did the head mean? Like backstory. My backstory was when here was the backstory of the goose.
Yeah.
We go into Ernest Miller, who's the commissioner's office. He goes, "What the hell is that?" I go, "This is my visual aid." That was it.
It's my visual aid.
It's my visual aid. Then I come in, so people are always asking, who came up with the duck and stuff like that? I said, no, it's not. That'd be funny to walk out there with this, like, have something that they can play with this and everything. But there was no like, the psychological makeup of the head story is fascinating, though. I mean, I love stuff like that.
So when you came to Paulie with that idea, did he just let you run with it, or did he help you with his own ideas also as it grew?
No. Paulie, he just let me run with it. He didn't. In fact, there were numerous times he'd come to me and he'd tell me, he said, "I hate your manager. I don't get it. I don't like it." And then one night, we actually did a show. It was in October. It was around Halloween, and we did a show in Stamford, Connecticut. And that night he came to me and he said, "Tomorrow night in the arena, when we go to Philly, I'm going to want you to come out, and you're going to save the Sandman, but you come out with the Sandman's T-shirt wrapped around the head." And so he was trying to give me the rub from Sandman. So I worked with Paul Diamond. And Paul gave me a gourd buster and trapped my right arm up underneath me, and it completely dislocated my shoulder to the point where I couldn't even stand up straight. And so I was out for a couple of weeks. I came back at the November to Remember pay-per-view, and it's funny how things work out, because quite honestly, it wasn't all the in-ring stuff that got me over. It was all the backstage stuff, and what really kicked it off was. At the pay-per-view, Chris Candido politicked for me to have a vignette backstage where I was in the locker room and I was everybody was normal but me, and I was arguing with the head. And that was the first time I'd ever done it outside of the ring. And that was the one that kicked it off right there. That was the one thing that got me over, was the more of those things that I did backstage, where it showed the interaction and the relationship between the two of us, between me and the head, and me treating it like it was a living person. Then that was what really got me over.
I was just amazed because we've been talking, me and Disco and Joe, about just how there's not enough characters that are over in WWE, or the storylines don't make sense. And you look at how much details you guys went into this storyline. It was very well done. And like these storylines today, they're so quick. They don't mean anything. Sometimes you think you missed a show, but you didn't miss a show. They just didn't explain it. Like Elias. I don't know if you're watching the product right now.
A little bit,
but Elias just turned heel out of the blue for no reason when they just got him over as a face. Yeah. I was like, what's going on here? So it's just very weird.
I think that, and I try to, from my own personal experience, I've tried to explain to the young guys that the most valuable thing that you can develop is that character, that personality, for the audience to be able to, turn to their friends and family and go, "You got to watch this show. There's this guy and he's A, B, C, D, E." If they can't do that, it doesn't matter how good you are, what physical moves you can do. I mean, I remember standing on the ring apron in Smoky Mountain on the outside. I could spring up to the top rope, turn in midair, and moonsault into the ring. It didn't make me a dime. I started running around with the head and talking to it and shaking it, and an audience could then describe me to their friends going, "Hey, you got to watch this show. There's this lunatic. He talks to a head," And then when you do get a character like that, you can't break kayfabe. You can't stop selling what it is the audience has bought. I tell kids all the time, back in the day when I was really, really over with the head, I would travel by myself. I'd go to a restaurant. I'd take the head in with me. I'd set it across the table from me in public, and I'd buy dinner for the two of us and sit there and argue with the damn thing. And, it was uncomfortable. It wasn't, it was weird. But I got asked. I got asked to leave a lot of restaurants, but if you saw me in the restaurant and then you were flipping the channels on your TV and you saw me on TV. Hey, come on in here. Remember that guy at the restaurant last night? He's on TV. That guy's really insane.
It's guerrilla marketing, basically.
Yeah.
It's guerrilla marketing. And so, which works because you never know. It's like networking, Joe, you bought, didn't you buy the school? What do you do right now?
I bought OVW.
You bought OVW. Okay. So who, your training guys there, so they have how many people you got down there right now?
Probably a total of a roster of about 30.
And how do you who's the training crew? Who's training?
Right now I've got Rip Rogers who's still with me. Right. I'm going to at some point bring in Jay Bradley because he has the experience, and that's what I look for. Is I look for people that have experience. As far as I'm concerned, especially in this day and age. Anybody can have information, and 98% of people equate knowledge to the fact that they have some information about a particular subject or a topic, and that's not knowledge.
Right.
Now, real knowledge is when you have information and then a commensurate amount of experience that goes along with it.
Did you hear me talk about this on the Russo show?
No, why?
I brought this up a couple weeks ago. I said
he thinks everybody listens to him on the Russo show.
It's funny when I hear some guys repeat. But I was saying, I go. Here's the thing, you look at guys okay, we're all doing this podcast right now, right? We're podcasting. Everybody's got a podcast, everything. And I go, but not what is the one thing that comes from the one underlying factor that comes from knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge and wisdom requires experience. Okay, yeah. I say some people say oh well, you can't you talk sports and stuff. And I go yeah. I've played sports. I've played baseball. I played basketball. So I have knowledge and wisdom about how to actually play the games. I go, the fascinating thing about this is there's people that have never wrestled before trying to portray the fact that they're speaking from a point of knowledge and wisdom. I was like, and they have no experience. I'm like, how does that happen?
And Al, when he said that he played sports, if you consider girls golf a sport, yes, he did.
Al, this is funny because you see the thing these days, especially on social media, that there's the war between the new school guys, the people today, the wrestlers today, and the old school, and they look at us.
There is no old school or new school. That saying that there's an old and a new school is saying that the business has changed, and it hasn't changed because we're still selling exactly the same thing when we get in the ring that we sold 30 years ago or 40 or 50 or 60. We're only selling the one thing that's fake, and there's only one thing that's fake about wrestling, and that's just the finish.
Right.
Now, unless you come up with something new that's fake now that you're selling, then yeah, I agree with you. It's a new school. You're now selling something other than the finish. But if you're still just selling the finish, which is really all the audience is paying to believe in, they're just paying to believe in who you are and why you did what you did out there. And that was the same 20 years ago, was 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And 40 years ago, people knew that wrestling was fake as much as people know today that wrestling was fake. They just didn't have as much access to the information about behind the scenes as people do these days. Other than that, people knew that the outcome was predetermined.
One thing that's definitely changed at the core philosophy, what you're talking about is absolutely correct. But I think more what we've seen is a style.
I agree.
Change in style.
I agree.
Yeah.
Performers now are trying to sell what they do, not who they are or why they do it. And that'll never work because, to your point, Disco, the reason that football, baseball, and basketball have such huge audiences in the United States is for one reason, and that's because everybody's played them as a kid. They have a direct relationship to what they watch. That's why hockey has a bigger audience in Canada than it does in the United States. That's why soccer is bigger all over the rest of the world than it is here. And that's why soccer is getting bigger here, is because now you have more generations of children that are playing it.
Yeah.
But before you stepped in a wrestling ring, did you ever know what it felt like to hit the ropes? Did you ever know what it felt like to take a bump in that ring? And why are you trying to sell them on what you do? because they'll never know how it felt. In fact, to prove that point, I tell guys all the time at the end of the show, if you want to stand by the door, ask everybody who walks out if they think that ring's a trampoline or a mattress. And they'll tell you it is because they've never been in it. They don't know how hard it is. They don't know how much it hurts. But they're not selling the intent behind it. The guys, the performers today are selling what they do, not why they did it.
Yeah. Well, plus, what you tell your kids about the most important thing is character or something. I reiterate this all the time. I say, look, if you look through the history of professional wrestling from as far back as we can remember, as far as we've known, and if you look at the Hall of Famers and the people that made a name for this business, and I just try to tell people to try to tell these kids, you go, dude, professional wrestling is this weird genre. There's never been a book written on it of what exactly it is. It came from the carnies, and like everybody's interpreted their definition of what wrestling is. I go, but the one thing that I've known is that the one thing that gets you over, okay, and that if you don't have this, you're going to have a very difficult time getting over, is that you have to have something that fans can imitate. Like if you do something that imitate that a fan can vicariously like I say, if two kids are going to go in their lawn and put a couple mattresses down, and they're going to wrestle each other. One kid's going to be the Disco Inferno, and the other kid's going to be the Macho Man Randy Savage.
What kid's going to do that?
None.
The smart kid's going to be the Disco Inferno. That's why he likes to stay in the story. I've heard. He gets a chance to put himself over. Okay,
just so you know. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll do this, bro. I'll appease you. One of them's Konnan, and one of them's Macho Man Randy Savage. Okay.
Okay.
Other than them going out there and doing wrestling moves to each other, if one of the guys is doing the ooh yeah and doing the thing, and Conan's doing his orderly, okay, if they never told you who they were beforehand, if you're sitting around watching, say, hey, that kid's being Konnan and that kid's being Macho Man Savage. Right. I go, today it's like, who is who? You know, but like when the Rumble the other day, they had 80-something people on the show, right? 75 of them came out. I couldn't tell you a thing about them. Couldn't tell you a catchphrase they had, a move they do. You know, they have nothing identifiable with them other than the fact that they go out there and wrestle. And I try to tell people, wrestling's not about the moves and stuff. It's about portraying your personality. And we say that so much, but like this new generation of people that think they can just get this is awesome chance by doing a bunch of acrobatic things. I'm like, guy, I go, there's not, what we're saying is not a lie. It's like, I'm not telling you this because it's not true. I said, you can do this too, is what I try to tell these kids, you know?
And you can get those, this is awesome chance and, you know, all of it. And let's face facts. I mean, the number one rule of wrestling is if it sells tickets, do it.
Right.
But, you know, but then you as a performer are marginalizing yourself. You know, you're willing to market yourself. And granted, you're going to be successful, but you're only going to be successful on this platform, not on this platform. You know, you're not going to reach the real audience that we're always trying to reach, with like we did back in the late 90s and the early 2000s. All of us were reaching out and we were, you know, touching base with Mr. and Mrs. Walmart. And that's the largest percentage of the population of, you know, the United States are people that go to Walmart. Yep. You know, why market you? I tell wrestlers all the time, why market yourself to wrestling fans? You know, they're going to come to the show.
Yeah.
Why not market yourself to those people that are casual fans that if you don't somehow capture their imagination and, to your point, create some kind of personality and character they can get excited about and relate to and turn to their friends and family and describe you in a sentence or less, you're going to make some money, but you're going to go through it. If you want to make life-changing money, you want to make Steve Austin money, you want to make Hulk Hogan money, then you want to make The Rock money, then you need to market yourself to Mr. and Mrs. Walmart. That's who you need to market yourself to.